first thing I think of when I think of Halloween, when I think of something that a Christian, in my opinion, should be um, definitely opposed to, would be anything that is a evil symbolism or evil ritual, whether that be witchcraft or anything of the like, trying to contact the dead, communicating with demons. I do see that there's a lot of that being pushed in our culture today. Currently, Vanessa Hudgens, formerly from High School Musical, actually recently announced that she's going to be releasing a movie, I believe it is, or a documentary of some sort, of her exploration into the field of witchcraft. So, um, now personally, I used to never take this stuff too seriously. I think growing up as a Christian kid, you kind of heard these things a lot from mom and dad or from grandma, grandpa, whoever the case may be. And it was pretty easy to kind of shrug it off. Honestly, though, I actually have recently made some friends who came from Massachusetts, and given the Salem witch trials and things that went on in the history of Massachusetts, they were much more serious about how they viewed that stuff, and they really challenged me to view it differently. As well as my wife actually has explored and showed me many videos of former witches who have now come to Christ, and these people that have actually experienced witchcraft and these rituals will definitely tell you that this is not something to scoff at. They truly do believe that there is some wicked, wicked evil going on, and there are individuals that really use Halloween to perpetuate that stuff. So, what would you say, Michael, should be a Christian's approach to handling these type of things within our culture?
Yeah, well, I think what makes this an uncomfortable conversation is that a lot of us that were raised up in purity culture is that I myself included had parents who said that, like Harry Potter's evil and I can't watch Scooby Doo because it entertains evil. It's like, okay, well, maybe there's something there, maybe not. But it has these connotations of fundamentalist extremism and dogmatic principles of control. That's not what this is about. I want to be clear on that. Like Deuteronomy 18 verses 10 to 11 specifies necromancing, seances, do not commune with the dead. These are all evil, wrong practices. And this is also mentioned in Leviticus 19:31 for anyone who's taking notes and wants to look it up. So this has been a problem for a real long time. And when there's the commodity of evil practices, things like the Hocus Pocus 2 movie that just came out. Innocent, stupid, funny. It's meant to be lighthearted. But when we make light of evil practices, then we're normalizing those things. We're normalizing raising the dead by nefarious means, by communing with the dead. Even things like, there's a lot of intrigue surrounding horror films and hauntings and even murderers. I mean, this goes beyond Halloween, kind of, but the whole Ted Bundy films and the constant films about mass murderers that are at the top of the rankings. This should tell you that there's a problem. There's an illness in our culture that finds these taboo items, these wicked items of evil practices, evil people, and nobody would argue that murdering is evil and that murdering the way that, like Ted Bundy murdered. And yet, Zac Efron's movie that came out last year was on the top of the charts for who knows how long. It's had millions and millions of views, and everyone then went back and listened to the Ted Bundy tapes. And right now, they're doing it with that other murderer, Jeffrey Dahmer, with the new film that came out with him, depicting his life. I think that's disgusting. I think it's disturbing. I think it's wrong for our culture to commoditize these evils. So when it comes to the genuine concern about witchcraft, about incantations, we joke about these things because it sounds like I'm saying, "Oh, Dungeons and Dragons is evil," just like in Stranger Things season, what was it, 4 or 5, whatever just came out. they play with that notion as well, that those crazy fundamentalists think that the great, wonderful protagonist is some evil character. But at the same time, we're making light of evil things that we're commanded not to do. And once again, just going to the scriptures, abstain from every form of evil. 1 Thessalonians 5:22. And again, out of out of 3 John verse 11, beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but imitate what is good. These are just direct commands from the scriptures. So if we're Christians, we say we're people of the book, we say we're going to follow it, then we need not admire or make light of evil practices. We can't be complacent in the exercising of these evil practices. And this goes for films, this goes for haunted houses. So that's another big one, is that I have a hard time understanding. Scary movies, haunted houses, why are people so enthralled by fear?
Yeah. And I can speak to that a little bit because I used to enjoy that stuff much more than I do now. Growing up, there was a entire amusement park called Silverwood, but in October it became Scarywood, and they turned the entire theme park into a gigantic haunted house. And to be honest, the artist in me still finds it very impressive, because it truly is impressive how much effort goes into pulling something like that off. And I think for me, that's where I enjoyed things like haunted houses and things of that nature. It was less about wanting to be scared. It was more about, it was a very artistic thing to me. Now, ultimately, the older I get, I think the more jaded I maybe get towards the world, the more I view the world as being a scary place. And because of that, I have less and less patience towards that kind of lack of care for lack of concern, I should say, for wicked things like dressing up as an axe murderer, or watching someone getting fake cut up on a table at a haunted house or something like that. It's truly some weird things when you think about it. And someone is probably listening to this and maybe thinking that, I'm being dramatic, but I would honestly challenge someone. This is a thought exercise I did just recently. Try to remove yourself as best as you can mentally from our culture, from even the human race. Try your best to pretend you're an alien who has landed down onto this planet, and you land on Halloween and you happen to come into a really well done haunted house. And you go through this entire haunted house absolutely terrified, and you come out at the end, and at the end of the haunted house you see a whole bunch of friends just laughing, and they were just having a great time through that whole thing. Don't you think you'd be a little bit weirded out? That's just kind of a thought exercise that I did recently that I thought was really insightful, because I think it's so normalized in our culture that we just think, yeah, I mean, people do that. They like to scare one another for fun, like it's a roller coaster or something like that. And it's like, there's a bit of a difference between a thrill ride and trying to scare the bejeebas out of someone. So now, that being said, I think that there are people that are going to argue for that, and ultimately, if you disagree, that's ultimately your right to do so.